Hey, deserving listeners, Ultimatum, Queer Love, Season 2. Let's watch.
And I feel like you just don't have the, will to do the same. But I think you want the same things that I want.
Don't bring me into this.
You just haven't sat down and been like, how can I have something that I want in my way, though?
It's not that at all, actually.
So, if I'm micro-analyzing, I think it's possible that Mel was differentiating and saying, stop telling me how I feel, stop attacking me, stop defining things for me. And no, it's not like that at all, actually. And then she starts to follow that up with something, but then very quickly calculates this is going to result in some conflict, or I don't trust Dana to hear me in this instance. So then she stops herself and says, I don't know, bro, just like, let's just shut this down. Let's rewind that.
How can I have something that I want in my way, though?
It's not that at all, actually. I don't know, bro.
You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just how I would be thinking if they were a couple in my office and I didn't know them. You know, I say all that. I say if I didn't know them because if it were 10, 100 sessions in, I would have enough to go off of to be more confident in any sort of hypothesis.
Okay.
So then Mel is shutting down and maybe stonewalling, hard to know, but I think it wouldn't be strange if Mel, generally speaking, but even also with Dana, calculates that it's not going to go well if Mel starts to get into it with her. So it's just like, I'll just be the strong, silent type or something. But Dana's doing well, you know, she's not leaning in. She's creating space for Mel to step into it. So let's see what happens.
I'm an ultimatum giver, you're an ultimatum receiver. That's just to start it off. And then I think family isn't your priority, nor is children. I want to know you're open-minded to the things that I want and need and believe in, as much as if I'm willing to open my mind to the things that you believe in, want. And
okay. Yeah. It's a good conversation. It's clarifying. There's nothing strange about what Dana said just at that point. Then Mel says, but you're not at the same time. And then Dana's about to say, I'm not. Yeah. So I think my hypotheses are at least in the ballpark, not only with this conversation, but previous, and that Mel is trying to differentiate. And I think Mel was either quietly agreeing with the enmeshment and the requirements for a while, or even going along with it explicitly. You know, the previous conversation when Dana was worrying that they were spending too much time together, it could be that Mel was thinking, well, maybe, but I could gain some points with Dana by saying something, because I know Dana wants me to say this, which is I don't think we spend too much time together at all. In fact, I think we spend more time together. I don't know. It's also possible Mel just wanted to spend more time with Dana, and or both. But anyway, so at this point, Mel is at the end of some sort of rope and is not giving in and is pushing back and saying, stop defining me. We're not, and you're not flexible, because what Dana was just saying is look, I just want to know what you want, or, well, actually what Dana said is more defining of her. I know that you don't want a family. I know that you don't want kids. I'm exaggerating for effect, but that's what she said, instead of asking, right? Because I think Mel even has stated that deep down she does want a family, but because of her upbringing, does not believe it's possible. So that I wouldn't define that person as not wanting a family or not wanting a marriage. I would define them as wanting a marriage, maybe desperately so, but because of their traumas, they just don't trust that it would ever happen, right? So Dana says, I just don't think you want that. And I think that's Dana's way of fishing. I also think it's Dana's way of enmeshing and trying to mold someone Not consciously at all. None of this is everything I'm saying about Dana is not conscious. It's not malignant narcissism or psychopathy or sociopathy. It's none of that stuff. No, there's no indications. It's straight down the middle, moderate, preoccupied attachment, anxious attachment style. It's just extremely common thing that people have, particularly when you have an inconsistent parenting, maybe from mom, maybe from abandoning other parents. I don't know. But so Mel is putting her foot down. She's like, no, you're actually not flexible. Let's rewind that.
I want to know you're open-minded to the things that I want.
Right, I forgot. So Dana is saying, I want to know that you're open-minded to the things I want. I think the message is, I want you to be like me. I want you to want what I want. And then Dana says, because I'm open-minded to what you want. And then Mel says, no, you're not.
And believe in as much as if I'm willing to open my mind to the things that you believe in, want.
But you're
and
not at the same time.
I'm not? Okay, how am I not?
If you're talking kids, you're not. You're trying to have me come to where you're at.
Now, I will thumbs up for Dana, at this point anyway, that she is listening. She's not bulldozing. She's like, oh, I'm not? Okay, tell me. And I could see a scenario where Dana legitimately is bothered by Mel not talking, because Mel has a way of reacting that is light and quiet, which, can be a strength and a curse. But Dana is, okay, we're talking. Okay, so tell me. That's the way it kind of looked to me, which is good. And then Mel is saying, you're trying to have me come to where you're at. And Dana wasn't being explicit with that, but the message I was receiving was that, and sounds like Mel is too. It's like, you want me to want the same things that you want. So you're not, I'm not trying to get you to come to my side, and you're not open to my side. But there's a clear message of, you know what you want, and you need me to be like you.
I think that you don't actually not want the things you say you don't want. You just are scared.
Yeah, and that is even possible, right? I was framing it possibly as that way, right? I mean, I don't know the specific, they were talking about kids. I don't know if I heard from Mel specifically around that, but around trusting marriage, right? Because that was the whole thing between Mel and Marie, that Mel was saying, I just don't really trust that. But anyway, so the way that Dana phrases things is interesting and important to take note for your own life, not only if you're receiving this, but if you're saying it. And it doesn't make it wrong. It's not against the rules, but it does indicate something, and it does communicate something, and it does point to a vibe, right? One of enmeshment, which she's disclosed that there's a good possibility that her and her mom have been enmeshed, and that is not Dana's fault, obviously, right? Because the enmeshment was quite possibly established as soon as she was born. So how could Dana have volitional control over that? And we could imagine that if that's true, which we don't know, then the modeling from the mother about how to work things out, how to love, how to conflict, how to work things out that are of difference, how to retain closeness, how to be close, involves defining the other person. In fact, there's a possibility that Dana even eventually learned the rules of the trade and started defining for the mom, right? Well, mom, you're this way, and then enmeshment is established, right? So for Dana, the way that she phrases things, let's rewind.
You're not. You're trying to have me come to where you're at.
I think that you don't actually not want the things.
Again, it's possible that that's true, but it's just the way that she's saying it and the confidence, right? That because just before this, she's like, okay, tell me. And then she says, I think you don't actually not want the things you say you don't want. That's quite a sentence, but it makes sense. In other words, I think you want what I want. Let's be real. We're the same, and you're just like me. Now, it can feel or look from the outside like an imposition, abusive, gaslighting even, but it's a desperation. And it's an enactment of what was modeled to her. It's the way that you love. We all have this. Depending on, for me, I can say that I was loved fairly well growing up. And so the way that I love my wife is completely indicative of the way I was loved. So if you are loved in an enmeshed way, then this is how you express love. We're the same. You don't actually want that. You want what I want. That could literally be an expression of love, even though on the receiving end, you're just like, stop doing that.
You say you don't want, you just are scared. Makes me sad, though.
Again, just going with speculation upon speculation that for Dana, she's in a healthy way identifying that she feels sad, and then she communicates that, and it could be based on her prediction or terror of separation and Mel rejecting her. There's no indication of that, right? But that seems to be the theme. Dana, upon being asked, tell me about your mother, all roads lead back to preoccupation. And so we're right back to the beginning, which is I don't feel secure with you is the theme. It's one way of putting it. And unless Mel just were to come over the top and just say, no, I'm with you 100%, don't worry about it, then it's just going to get worse, because Dana has raised the question and it's not being answered well, right? If she just hadn't asked the question in this way and been more realistic about the status of the relationship, it could have been answered well, right? If Dana had just come around to asking for reassurance of just like, well, for today or for the trial marriage, are you good? Do you like me? Like, that could have been answered absolutely positively by Mel, but that's not the question she asked. She asked essentially, are you going to be just like me? Are you going to change your mind? Are you going to forgo you for us?
If I tried to carry, I would die or it would die. Like, one of us wouldn't make it up. And so I kind of thought to myself, well, I didn't really want this anyway. So, like, what does it really matter to me?
Okay, so we're learning a little bit more detail about Mel's medical issues. She talked about how she's in chronic pain and has been for a long time. She didn't go into detail. I think she is purposely avoiding certain disclosures around the specifics of it in front of the cameras, which is fine. But I don't know if I included it, but she said when she was a teenager, she was diagnosed with a bunch of things. And during that time, she was told that she could never have kids. It would either kill her or the child. So she is saying that at that point, she just decided that she doesn't want kids as a way of coping. She also said that it was that decision to identify as someone who doesn't want to have kids was informed by previously when people would show her pictures of babies or they would have a baby, that Mel didn't have the enthusiasm that other people seem to have, maybe particularly women. And I can tell you that babies can be inherently cute and gravitational, if you will. Just like, oh my God, that child is so cute. I just want to hold the baby and smell their head, and watch them. And I've been there, but not everyone's like that, and not everyone has that experience all the time. And as a guy, I can tell you that I am allowed not to have that feeling, whereas women are not allowed to have that feeling. If someone were to show a picture of a baby, if you have anything short of like complete giddiness, you are considered to be a bitch or angry or bitter or something bad. Whereas I've had many moments where, particularly pictures, I don't know, it just doesn't really hook me to see a picture of an infant. For other people, it does for sure. But I can tell you, I noticed this many years ago that like someone shows up at work with their newborn, and for myself, I'm not I'm at work. I'm sort of in work mode. I'm wearing work clothes. I just, and maybe it's not really in me, but I'm not like, oh my God, I want to walk over there and like interact and can I hold the child? Like it just doesn't interest me. I think it's hard to know if it's real or if it's programmed by my gender stereotyping internalization, but I just don't. And I'm guessing it varies independent of gender, right? That you can be a woman and also not really have that impulse. But I do notice that women tend to react more that way, maybe because of genetics or experience or expectations. But I have wondered at times if women feel pressured to do that when they don't really want to. And maybe over time they just learn how to fake it or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I'm saying a lot of stuff that I don't know that much about. But for Mel, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a coherent conceptualization that Mel was just more like me as a teen, independent of gender, just, there's a variation in humans based on our experience or our interests or something. And Mel felt as a young girl, a teenage girl, that there was something wrong with her because she wasn't super giddy and enthusiastic and like, oh my God, about babies. And it could be an element of her emerging queerness, right? So who knows? But I say all that because I don't know if I've ever been given a chance to talk about any of that stuff on this channel. But for Mel, she was also referring to that experience as more evidence that she's not meant to have kids or something like that. But there does sound like there's some question mark there for Mel, that maybe for herself, that she's asking herself, that maybe she cut herself off from having kids and she convinced herself that she didn't want to have kids because of the diagnoses and also because of the lack of mother figures in her life. She said she had 4 women that she called mom and they all disappeared and abandoned her. So maybe there's a question. And people in this position, I've worked with clients like this where there's no way for them to know, right? They feel a conscious lack of motivation to have kids, maybe even an aversion to have kids, but they're smart enough to know that, well, how do I know if that's really me or just a reaction to my life? And it's hard. It's really hard to sift through that. I've received emails from some of y'all asking questions like that. How do I know? I chose not to have kids, and I'm 32, and I always assumed that I was just. But now I'm starting to wonder, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe, and of course those questions can be because of oppression and bigotry and stigma. So it's hard to sift through. Anyway, so it sounds like Mel is and has been kind of sifting through this.
Does your ex know this?
Nobody knows it, Dana.
Oh my God.
Okay, so interesting. Dana asks, does Marie know any of this stuff? And Mel says, nope, nobody knows this. So that's interesting. I wonder if there's some outcome from the format of the show that promotes self-disclosure in a way that would never happen normally, right? I think there can be some element of the camera and the production team setting, because they will, I don't know about this scenario, but the production will often, in collaboration with the cast members, will say like, well, what do you want to do today? And they say, oh, well, I thought we'd have a little picnic. And then the production might say like, well, do you have any questions or any kind of, because, we only have so many weeks left, you got to get to know. And it is framed as a helpful thing to the cast members, and it is potentially, but it's also self-serving on behalf of production because they don't want them to just chat and have small talk. They want some stuff to show for the TV show, which I'm thankful for to some extent, as long as they're not pressured. So all that conspires, I think, for the cast members to perhaps disclose more than they would normally. Also, if you are suddenly thrust into a marriage with someone, you might feel you don't have the resentment and the walls up with your partner yet, but you also have the closeness all of a sudden, so it might feel safe to disclose stuff like this. I don't know. What do you think?
You're so lucky you're gay because you have another woman to carry. You got like 2 bodies instead of like 1 like everyone else. I want you to have optimism because like you deserve to like have the things you want.
So, what Dana is saying, you're lucky that you're gay because Marie or I could be pregnant for the 2 of us. But I don't know if that's what Mel was saying. In fact, I assumed it was the opposite because Mel knows that she's gay. So I assume when Mel says she doesn't want to have kids, or she wonders if she doesn't want to have kids, it's just regardless of whether or not she carries or not. Now, I will revisit my earlier questions and hypotheses about Dana's emotional triggering and process and enmeshment messages, and say that Dana did stop and ask questions, and Mel did share, and Dana didn't, at least in the edit, double down and spin out of control. Because there was a potential trigger there. And that tells me that Dana, if she is preoccupied, has some flexibility there and has some strength and some security in the mix. Because where Dana was headed was, I think that you don't want to have marriage and you don't want to have kids with me. And I want you to be like me. Remember all those statements? I think you are like me, but you don't admit it that you're like me. And when Mel went into vulnerability, then that provided some security, and Dana didn't become hyper-focused on, okay, that's all fine, but you're still like me, right? We're still the same. She didn't do that. She was emotionally satisfied with vulnerability and connection and disclosing, right? Some, realness, but authenticity, instead of Mel just saying, that's deep with a smile. And that satisfies that closeness. And that is the case for people that I work with preoccupied anxious attachment, is that they'll become hyper-focused on an indicator of closeness and lack of rejection, like texting me back, or we're the same, or we have the exact same future plans, But that's not really what they're looking for. What they're looking for is closeness and security and attachment and bond and safety. And so as a therapist, when I'm working with transference, countertransference, when I'm at my best, which isn't all the time, then I can see through the cobwebs and the chaos and give the client what they need in the moment, which is, they like a common preoccupied transference from a client might be something like, you forgot that one detail in my life. You don't care about me. Or I don't know. I can't remember any client saying something like that, but I'm trying to think of a common one. Like, I emailed you in between sessions about what was going on with me, and you didn't get back to me right away. I know you have other clients, but I don't know. I just feel like you just don't even care about me or something like that. So the consciously stated request is that I respond to emails, but that's not what's being expressed. That's not what's happening emotionally for the client. What's happening for them is that they feel alone, rejected, unsure, insecure, and they are paranoid that inside my mind is a secret rejecter, someone that doesn't actually care, or is even planning on rejecting them, which is another common transference, that I'm secretly trying to get rid of the client. And so instead of reassuring or getting into an argument about the email, I just judo that and say, well, I don't know what, it depends on the client in the moment, but would communicate that I do care and that I hear them. And sometimes it's literally just responding to what, so when you emailed me, you were hoping that I would respond. And when I didn't respond, you felt what, like I didn't care? Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, I could see how it would feel that way. Or you felt like you weren't a priority to me, or, whatever. So sometimes you don't have to judo it. You just have to hear it and just respond in a particular way from the heart. I don't just mail it in. I don't fake it. That's the part of the corrective experience that requires a lot of self-reflection, a lot of therapy myself, so that I don't come across in a closed off or defensive or evasive way. It's hard to manage. Anyway, so I will commend Dana for, at least in the edit, not continuing down that road and appreciating what was actually happening, which was, now I'm getting what I want. I was saying we're not the same, or you don't want what I want. But what I was really feeling was distance, because you've been quiet today and then you said that's deep. But now that you've opened up, I do feel closer to you. And so we don't even need to go back to where I started this conversation. All right, well, that is it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.